Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for March 28, 2022.
Okay.
First item, oh, you're going to speak first, right?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. The first item is the Board of Standards and Appeals proposed rulemaking under the City Administrative Procedure Act for draft rules. This is amending 2 NCR Section 1-081 and Section 108-2 regarding environmental review requirements under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the City Environmental Quality Review.
Thank you. And I'd like to make a brief statement. First, it was 2 RCNY Section 1-08.1 and 1-08.2.
Oh, sorry.
Title 6, Section 617.1C of the New York Codes, Rules, and Regulations, Authority, Intent, and Purpose of State Environmental Quality Review, states that the basic purpose of SECRA is to incorporate the consideration of environmental factors into the existing planning, review, and decision-making processes of state, regional, and local government agencies at the earliest time possible. It directs local agencies to determine whether actions that they approve will have a significant impact on the environment. The board typically treats applications before the board as actions pursuant to SECRA and SECR. In accordance with SECRA and SECR, the board categorizes actions into Type 1, Type 2, and unlisted actions, categories that identify actions as exempt or requiring environmental review based on numerous factors set forth in the regulations. The board undertakes this rulemaking in recognition of the board's duties under SECRA and SECR. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to say that we're going to open this up to hearing now, as opposed to waiting till we go through the review session of the cases to allow for public testimony. And I just want to remind commissioners, this is a public hearing to hear public testimony on the proposed rule. And the board should listen to the testimony and take it under consideration prior to the vote, which will occur at another time. And our counsel will research the issues that are raised by the testimony and provide guidance based on that testimony. Okay, so I see people, so let's open it up to members of the public to call in. So we need the call-in screen.
Should you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. You will enter the webinar ID number, which is 960-1176-8373. Press pound. You will then be instructed to enter the participant ID number. Do not do that, just press pound. You may press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute in order to speak. If you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Great, thank you. So I see some people in the Zoom room already. If you'd like to speak on the proposed rulemaking, please raise your Zoom hand. Otherwise, I'm going to give a little time in case there are people calling in. So far, I don't see anybody raising their hand. There is one hand up. Todd. Okay. I'm admitting Todd Dale to speak.
Okay, let me swear you in.
He has to be sworn in.
He doesn't have to be sworn in. And
Oh, he doesn't on this one? Oh, okay, I apologize.
And he'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Dale.
Hey, good morning. Am I here? Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
Can you recognize yourself as a panelist?
Ken. Oh, there it is. I didn't get.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Uh-oh. There he is. There he isn't.
There I am. Good morning. Sorry, it always reboots my Zoom every time it sets me up as a panelist, so I disappear when I'm speaking. So I don't need to be sworn in?
No.
No.
Okay.
Raise
So
your case now.
okay, great. So good morning. I just wanted to speak briefly. This supplements a written submission that we provided to the record the middle of last week. I understand it's 3 minutes, so I'll just quickly mention a few things, but I would make reference to the written submission if the commissioners wish to review it further. We just state that the rules amendment as currently proposed merits additional review prior to its enactment because the current construction of the rule would result in unintended and unnecessary burdens on both applicants and city resources without really achieving the intended results of the amendment. I would note that the proposed rule as drafted would require seeker filings for all applications to the board. This would include not only variance and special permit applications that are heard on the zoning calendar, but it would include applications on the appeals calendar and also the special orders calendar. Would reflect reference to applications on the appeals calendar that would include applications such as vested rights applications. It would include interpretive appeals. It would include general city law applications. And even though some of these applications may be deemed as type 2 actions, the two things to consider are there would be certain classes of actions that would always be type 2 actions. So this rule as drafted would require those applicants to file type 2 action or seeker checklists. It would just be an additional fee, an additional burden on city resources to file these forms that would end up being rote filings for certain classes that are always excluded. I would also note there's possible unintended consequences for other applications, such as vested rights applications for developments that might not be able to be classified as type 2 actions that could lead to significant unexpected burdens and costs. I would also note that with respect to general city law applications, which may have some history with respect to this particular rule, that the state law exempts 1 to 3 family homes as type 2 actions. So in drafting and enacting this rule, applications for residential developments of 1 to 3 family homes, even larger developments that are series applications, would still be exempt from seeker filings and would just be a seeker filing checklist. So it may not provide some of the additional information that the board requests for certain type of applications. Beyond appeals, since the rule as drafted would require all special order calendar filings to be subject to environmental filings, I think additional consideration should be given to how this might adversely affect, again, both for applicants, but also for, the unintended consequences for city resources spent reviewing environmental applications for certain special order filings like extensions of times or minor amendments that may not change floor area, but change like the layout of a particular site, and whether this type of review is something that the board wishes or desires, and whether it would be an undue burden on applicants, based on the way that the rule is drafted. So
3 minutes are up, Mr. Dale.
okay, I would just say quickly in summary that additional consideration should be given to the rule as it's currently drafted because it may affect classes of applications the board does not intend to have it affect and may not provide the additional information that the board seeks to achieve through this rule amendment. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony and for your written testimony. We received that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else in the waiting area who would like to speak on this rule? Because I do think we had enough time for people to call in. Maybe one more time where we invite people to call in on this proposed rulemaking, and then we can move on to the review session.
So the call-in number is 646-558-8656. The webinar ID number is 960-1176-8373. Press pound. You will also be restricted to enter a participant ID number, which you don't have to do, just press pound. And then once you're in, you press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. If you are in the Zoom room already and wish to speak only on the proposed rulemaking, you may raise your Zoom hand.
Thank you. Okay, just give it another 30 seconds to see if anybody wants to call in, and otherwise we'll move on to the review session. So just for maybe Chase will fill in, but so what we do subsequently is we review the testimony. We go over questions that are issues of concern about the proposed rulemaking. We research that information, and then we'll have a vote on the on whatever there might be changes to the language or not, and then we'll have a vote on that. Okay. All right, I think we've given enough time for people to call in. So thank you very much, and let's move on to the review session.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
does the matter get closed?
oh yeah. I guess the matter gets closed. Yeah, so for a motion to close on the rule, on the CAPA, on the rulemaking.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye,
Thank you, Carlo.
thanks.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta? I couldn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. The Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for March 28, 2022. This is no public testimony during the review session. The first item is adjournments. Item number 2, 2019-263 BZ, 2122 Richmond Avenue, Staten Island.
Okay, hold on a second on this one. This will be the 4th adjournment. So I'd like our council to send out a warning letter, and we're going to give them a lot of time because I know that there's a requested study from DOT, but really the recommendation is not to adjourn, appear and just tell us what's going on, because we don't like to keep adjourning and not getting any updates on what's happening on a case. So just don't adjourn the next hearing, even if you still haven't gotten final response from DOT, okay? Okay, go ahead.
Item number 3, 7211 BZ, 101-06 Astoria Boulevard, Queens.
Okay.
Item number, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Item number 4, 2021-30-30 BZ, 222 44th Street, Brooklyn. Item number 5, 2021-41 BZ, 2838 Cummings Street, Manhattan. Item number 5, 171, oh, wait.
Item number 6.
Item number 5 was 2021-41 BZ, 2838 Cummings Street, Manhattan, sorry. Item
Yeah.
number 6 is 17197 BZ, 6501 Casino Boulevard, Queens. Okay, on to decision items. Item number 7, 742-70 BZ, 830 Bay Street, Staten Island.
Okay, this one, I think we have a little something missing. So the drawings were revised to clarify the fencing conditions. There was kind of poor graphics about the fencing. The DEC closure report was provided as requested. They did provide their hours of operation of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays, but we asked for better photos of the site perimeter and none were provided. The question was to obtain clear photos looking at the site perimeter from inside the site, not necessarily from gaining access to an adjoining site. So I didn't actually understand why nothing was provided. The task was to ensure that the site perimeter is well maintained. But aside from that, the more critical thing is we didn't get an answer about the discrepancy between the building dimension, the length of the building on the approved plans, on the previously approved plans, and also shown the same dimension shown on the first set of plans that were submitted with the application versus more recently submitted plans submitted for the last hearing and also for this one. There's a difference of 14 feet in the length. It's not a 1 foot discrepancy. So obviously that's significant. And the applicant was advised to verify in field about this and establish that if it's longer, that it's not it's the result of an error as opposed to the result of a 14-foot long addition. So what we could do is put it on for what we call second call, even though we wouldn't decide it until tomorrow to give them time to go out and measure. And maybe the way that you establish that the building wasn't enlarged is you take pictures of the building and maybe it's possible to tell from the photographs of the building that there was no enlargement. Because it's actually very confusing. There's a really big difference. And all I can think of is it's an error in the dimensioning, but that's a very big error in dimension. So I'll go into the other commissioners though. Vice Chair Shonda.
No comments.
Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown.
No additional comments.
Okay. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Commissioner Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. No additional comments.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to put this on for second call. If the applicant has questions, please direct them to, who's our project manager on this?
Vinroy Bell.
Vinroy. And if Vinroy has questions, please direct those to Carlo or Tony. Carlo, probably to Carlo, okay? Because Tony's managing the hearing, okay? Thank you. Okay, so I'm noting second call on this one, and likely the second call will be tomorrow to give them time to do that and research. Okay.
Item number 8, 29099 BZ, 97 Greenwich Avenue, Manhattan.
Right. This one also had a little bit, another issue that was raised at the last hearing and not dealt with. Or as requested, a statement about the inapplicability of the new health and fitness text to the building was submitted to clarify that the size of the PCE is greater than what would be permitted as of right in the district. The statement of facts also clarified that section 77-11 renders the entire site in the C1 zoning district, but it relies on something called, that this particular applicant keeps calling the Lumen tax map as though that fixes the date. I started working as an architect far after 1961, and we still relied on Lumen tax maps that were being updated much later than 1961. So so you actually need to tell what the date is, because you're trying to establish that the tax lot or the zoning lot was the same in 1950, like early 1961 as it is today. So you could rely on 7711. So to the extent you know the date, please give us that. But and no revised site plan was provided to show this condition, which actually would have been helpful for future boards, so they wouldn't have to guess how come the entire site is being treated as if it's in a C1 when part of it is in an R district. But the more critical issue was the statement of facts was revised to clarify the size of the establishment per floor and to distinguish zoning floor area from gross floor area. But what we had specifically asked for at the last hearing was to coordinate what was stated in the statement of facts with what's stated on the drawings. And the drawings were not updated to match the statement of facts or the other way around. So there is actually a disconnect between the drawing that was submitted on the most recent one we have is from March 31st of 2021. So there are charts there's a chart on that most recent drawing that matches the drawing, the approved drawings, but then the amount of floor area and so on that's in the statement of facts doesn't completely match. So that's a problem, because then our council doesn't know what to write. So that's something where we need to get that right. So again, I'd like to put this on second call. That might be something you could correct like right away, because you just need to match the chart in the statement of facts. You don't need to go back to the drawings, right? So, and then further, we agreed to eliminate the term, but that the variance would be specific as to the use, just as a reminder. Vice Chair Shonda.
Yeah, my only recommendation would have been to, as part of elimination of the term, was to allow any as of right use group 6 uses, which would be permitted in C16.
But then we went through the list, and then we realized there are some as of right uses that are aggressively more traffic dependent, or I mean, parking dependent. We actually talked about this before, that it would be easier for us not to have to guess which ones. and just make them come back. Plus, there were bulk waivers effectively associated with this, so,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Commissioner Otley Brown?
You're muted.
You're muted.
I know, I was just unmuting myself.
Okay.
I just also had an issue with the numbering of the plans in that the A100, hold on, let me find my notes on that. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I didn't.
And this could have been corrected, but as of the 18th of March, A100 is actually the cellar floor plan and not the first floor plan.
Okay.
So it's kind of mislabeled. I don't know if they corrected that.
So there were no drawing submissions since March of 21 that I
Okay.
found. So if it was wrong in March, it's still wrong because that was,
Oh, okay, that they never corrected that. Yeah, so there's also that issue as well.
okay.
As
No.
what I had said with you with the cover page of the plans not matching the succeeding pages, even in the number and the deductions taken.
Okay,
Right, that's the other part of it. The plan, yeah, you're right about that. So on each plan, there's also a little summary of floor area, and that doesn't match the chart that's on the first page, right? So
Right.
as you say, okay, it needs to be coordinated through. Okay,
I don't know, the applicant said the totals do match as explained in the email, but
no,
he
no,
sent,
they
he
don't
sent it,
have-
he sent it before she spoke. That's what I'm just.
right.
Right,
Actually,
because
go ahead. Sorry.
I had reached out about this about a week and a half ago, and I kept getting the same statement back that there is no error, there is no error. And then I looked back on the plans thinking that, okay, maybe I had something wrong. And then I noticed that the plans themselves aren't even correct. It could be minor. Corrections are needed, but the person who kept responding to me didn't even notice that the site plan cover sheet list of floor area, and
Yeah.
then the ensuing pages aren't even labeled correctly.
Right. And so just to use as an example, because I have the charts in front of me. So it says the gross floor area of the building on the charts is 43,518. And on the statement of facts, it says the total zoning floor area of the establishment, no, this total floor square feet of establishment floor area, including the exempt cellar floor area, which means the gross, right, is 39,496. They don't match. And so our council won't know what to write on the approval. We've had this kind of problem before where we end up having to reopen to receive new materials. So really, whatever the right answer is, just make the right answer on everything, right? You can change the charts, you can do whatever you want to do, but they all have to look the same. Including, as Commissioner Otley Brown said, on each drawing, because there's another little number on each drawing that doesn't match the chart. So, okay, thanks. Commissioner Sheta
Thank you, Chair. I have no further comments.
and Commissioner Shibeta.
Thank you, Chair. I have no further comments.
Okay, so we're going to put this one on for second call also. And now that I realize it's drawings, it's going to need to be voted on tomorrow because they need time to do that work.
Okay, item number 9, 2021-32 BZ, 1471 East 26th Street, Brooklyn.
All the requested changes were made to the drawings, so I'd like to make, a motion to close, and if commissioners have other comments, please state them. Not close, sorry, to grant. And the resolution should make clear that in consideration of the fact that this is a semi-detached home with no expansion capability at the side or front yards, a second story addition to a 20-foot rear yard what it was considered acceptable. And also that the conditions are no exterior insulation finishing system, so no EFIS, no removal of existing exterior walls or joists in excess of that shown on the plans. And if that's done, that would void the special permit. Those notes are already on the drawings, but that could be a condition to grant. Okay, so motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Ooh. You have an echo or something, or maybe you're too close to your speaker. Isn't that
No,
ironic?
he has a microphone. We gave him a microphone.
So maybe you're too close to your mic now, because it's like reverberating. So now you have to pull back a little bit as opposed to the last time you had to get closer. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
item number, may I go on, Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Item number 10, 2021-15BZ, 81 Beaver Street, Brooklyn.
Okay, second. Okay, the project was modified as discussed at the last hearing to show retail on the entire first floor and cellar levels, residential on all of the upper floors, and to include a residential penthouse with recreational rooftop. Financials were revised to reflect those changes, which I'll leave to Commissioner Otley Brown to verify that they make sense. So I'm going to go around the room and then we can, I'll make a motion. Okay, so Vice Chair Chanda.
I have no additional comments. I'm satisfied with the submission.
Okay, Commissioner Otley Brown.
Hi, I took a look at the financial letter and I found that they made the corrections to everything, and it still shows that the penthouse version of the lesser variance is the minimum variance, and the return, I believe, is 5.93%, and that's the cap rate used. It's a blended cap rate for both the residential and the retail, and I'm fine with the corrections to the financials.
Great, thank you so much. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I did look at the submission by the applicant. I want to thank them. This is the fourth hearing for this case, and we're at the finish line. I know that the course of this hearing was kind of like a bit tough, but they got to the finish line. I want to congratulate them for achieving that, and I believe the proposal is reasonable. Thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner Sheta.
I'm satisfied with this application.
Right. So then, and I didn't see any conditions. So I'd like to make a motion to grant and wish them well on this project.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
SOC calendar, continued hearing items. Item number 11, 758-84BZ, 1444 Clove Road, Staten Island.
Okay. Sorry, we scheduled this hearing soon after the last one, which was on February 7th, so that drawings could be submitted showing the proper planting arrangement and trash enclosure, and to close after seeing that, and then to give them time to install prior to the vote. A very nicely prepared site plan with landscaping as discussed all the way around the site, and a residential style trash enclosure was provided. And I do want to compliment the applicant for the quality of the submission. There was also a very well prepared and clear compliance chart provided that I think is model material for other applications. And I actually forwarded this to Jella, who kind of manages our models. It indicates clearly what documents establish compliance with the conditions of each grant and states clearly what is out of compliance. So I thank the applicant for really an excellent submission. The statement of facts and plans now both indicate seller, which I think was something missing on the materials before. So I'm okay with the application now. And they should go ahead and do the planting. Timing is perfect, except today's 20 degrees, so you might need to wait a few more weeks. Okay, Vice Chair Shanda?
In addition to all the submissions that they have made, which I'm satisfied with, the applicant submitted a letter on 24th of March requesting an elimination of the term.
Yes, we talked about that the last time. We were going to eliminate the term. That was something we
Okay.
talked about. Okay.
Okay,
I believe they submitted the letter to formally request it.
okay,
We talked about it and
just-
we asked them to
right.
submit the letter. Okay, thanks.
okay. I just wanted to have it on the record.
Okay, Commissioner Ollie Brown?
No additional comments.
Okay. And Commissioner Sheta?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further from me.
Okay, and Commissioner Shabeta?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further from me.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 12, 51957
Oh,
B.
no, stop. We have to close.
Oh, sorry, you want to close?
Oh, we can't.
Sorry.
No.
We can't close. Sorry. This is a review session. I'm sorry, I'm confused. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Item number
Come on.
Item number 12, 51957 BZ, 2071 Fifth Victory Boulevard, Staten Island.
I'm sorry. Because we did a hearing, then we came back, all right.
Monday.
It's Monday. All right, I didn't find as directed, unless there was something else submitted. Maybe this was, I don't know. I didn't find as directed the request to waive our rules to submit the application more than 1 year prior to the expiration of the term, or for an extension of time to obtain a CO. I think we didn't receive anything. My notes from the last time say this is an application for an extension of term that expires in June 19, 23, and that was filed on July 20th, 21, so more than 1 year prior to the expiration of term. So the applicant must request a waiver of our rules under section 107.3B2. I read that at the last hearing. I also read, this is also an application for an extension of time to obtain a certificate of occupancy that is overdue by almost 10 years. Request for a waiver of section 1-07.3D2, D as in dog, is required. I read that at the last hearing. The cover letter indicates an alteration type 1 was filed to begin the process to obtain a CO, so that's good. We did ask for that. Copies were provided of the 1958A case, which is 102-58A, that permitted 2 curb cuts, sidewalks, and paving within the Victory Boulevard street widening line. And also a copy of the 1985A case, which was 833-84A, that waived Fire Prevention Code section C19-73.0B2 to allow self-service gasoline pumps. In connection with the fire code waiver, there were 21 conditions imposed. So you could see that there was a lot of fear about self-serving gas pumps in 1985. But given the ubiquity of self-service pumps today, I'm assuming that the code has changed to allow them without any kind of a waiver. But I would like the fire department to verify that the site is in compliance, because I wasn't aware you needed a waiver for self-service pumps. The site plan was revised to show arbor vitae evergreens densely planted along the residential property line. The planting bed is only 3 feet front to back, so I'm not persuaded this is enough to support healthy vegetation. Normally we see a minimum of 4 feet front to back. They need to provide sectional details of the in-ground planting beds with curb Wheel stops are already shown on the plan. We have standard sectional details in case the applicant, the architect doesn't have them. They're very simple, and we have a collection of simple sectional details. A trash enclosure made of chain link fencing is also shown to be provided. Those are no longer acceptable forms of trash enclosure. It should be masonry with finished sides, either finished masonry or stucco and paint, and with solid steel doors. So they need to provide the elevation and details of the trash enclosure. And again, we have such standard details in case the applicant's architect doesn't have that. A Lumen spread diagram was submitted on March 17th and again on March 22nd of this year. The instruction, though, from the board was to take field measurements along the perimeter shared with residential properties and to reduce the sources of light spread across the property lines. Notes on the site plan, but not on the Lumen diagram, indicate some changes will be made to the light sources, and this must be reflected on a field report of Lumen spread. So if they weren't coordinated onto Lumen spread, the diagram as submitted shows light, sorry? The diagram as submitted shows light spread higher than 0.0 on the residential property, and that's not acceptable. So that should have been done with metering. And please, all submitted drawings, this is for project managers and applicants, must show the updated drawing date or revision date on the title block. We have 2 sets of Lumen drawings, both dated April 1st, 2021. So really, it's difficult to know which is the most recent set because the stamps that we have that are submission stamps aren't necessarily in the order of when the drawings were done. So you must date your own drawings. We also asked for photos of the perimeter of the site, looking at all perimeter views along the property lines and back at the building from the property lines and key to the site plan. And instead, we only received a site plan keying old photos that were submitted with the original application to the site. So it wasn't it really wasn't a very responsive submission. And so, yeah, I'm still waiting. Okay, Vice Chair Shanda.
I was satisfied to see the applicant has started with the CO application. And the applicant is proposing recommendations to reduce the lumen count based on the lumen count that they have submitted, which is to reduce the height of the light pole at the corner of the lot facing Bradley Avenue and eliminate another light source that is in the mid block along the rear lot line. I think once that is done, then we would have a better sense of the lumen read. In terms of the trash dumpsters, I was kind of okay with the fence treatment, given that it is abutting a commercial use and it is very much tucked away from the sight line of other properties. But I have no additional comments on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Riley Brown.
I have no additional comments.
Okay. Commissioner Sheta.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Commissioner Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. I have no additional comments.
Okay. Thank you.
New cases, item number 13, 106927BZ, 6702, 6724 New Utrecht Avenue, Staten Island. We are still in review session.
Okay.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah, I know the heading is incorrect. It's not Staten Island, it's Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know you pointed that out when the calendar had already gone out, and then it's really hard to pull it back. So I thought we would just make that correction here. So the calendar description, it should say Brooklyn, not Staten Island. We have proof of service. Can you mute, please, everybody? There's a lot of disturbance. Okay, thanks. We have proof of service of initial application and a note of notice of hearing to officials. Community board recommends approval. In reading the prior resolutions, it was evident that in 1991 and 2001, this was a problematic site since there were 9 hearings on it in 2001 and 4 in 2011. The statement of fact states that there are no changes proposed for this extension of term, but the plans have bubbles indicating changes. So I'd like the applicant to explain. I didn't understand why there were so many bubbles on an initial submission. For the benefit of our project managers, bubbles on an initial application should not be there unless it's a change between the previously approved plans and the new first hearing date. Don't allow bubbles that are just reflecting your back and forth with the applicant, because this is very confusing to the board. We look at these for the first time, and this should reflect changes to the previously approved drawings, nothing else. Comparing the previously approved plans to the proposed, one curb cut on New Utrecht close to the Ovington intersection was supposed to have been removed and wasn't. And that's not mentioned anywhere in the compliance materials. The proposed site plan shows that a curb cut is blocked by planters. So that's actually the one that was supposed to have been removed. And that one, the curb really should be returned to a curb since it's not being used as a curb cut. And that was what was supposed to have been removed previously. A trash enclosure is indicated to be provided on the site plan without any other information. It should be finished masonry or painted stucco with steel doors. They should provide a detail of that. And we have, as I said, in the previous application, we can provide the standard detail so you know what to do. One street view image from last year shows car washing or detailing on the New Utrecht sidewalk. And there is no clear demarcation of the property line from the public sidewalk, and the public sidewalk's very wide. An earlier resolution required fencing to indicate that, but that fencing was never installed. I actually don't know whether a fence would work given the operation, but something has to be done to prevent the business from using the sidewalk for the detailing work. There's also something odd between the two sets of drawings, the previously approved set versus the currently submitted set. The 2011 approved drawing shows significant space between the corner of the building and the New Utrecht sidewalk. The proposed drawing shows very little space, like 3 feet or less. And the shoe and clothing drop box and dumpster in that location is actually preventing cars from staying off of the sidewalk. So I don't know which one of these is correct. The applicant should provide a survey and correct the site plan accordingly. And I note for those of you who are thinking, oh, a survey is really expensive, for sure a survey was done at some point, and I have a lot of experience with this. Surveyors hold on to the surveys basically forever. So you can actually contact the surveyor and get a copy of the old survey since the building hasn't been modified in decades, right? There are floodlights on the side of the building. Do any of them face 15th Avenue? There are residences on that side, so the lights must be shielded to not shine in residential windows. That would go also for the entrance to the car wash from 67th Street and Ovington. Also they should provide a lighting plan showing the location of the fixtures. I mean, it's not really a lumen spread diagram because this is a city block, so you don't need to show lumen spread, but you should show where the fixtures are on the drawing. And then we need to establish whether they're spread, which you could probably do by a night photo with the lights on. A lumen spread diagram may then be needed if there are issues. But because the site is across the street, as I said, from residences, the distance may be enough to prevent glare impacts. If indeed the business shuts down at 6 p.m. as shown on the statement of facts, then there's only like winter months where I don't even know if they do detailing in winter months, but anyway, it's only winter months where you would be concerned about the light for like 2 hours, you know. So maybe it's not an issue. Like to hear everybody's comments on that. Otherwise, the site looks very good. Okay, Commissioner Vice Chair Shonda.
Thank you. So I had a little difficulty trying to understand how the operation functions on this site. I was trying to understand where the vehicles are serviced for the exterior wash only. I mean, the vehicle service for the exterior wash only are queued in. And for the vehicles seeking full service of interior and exterior, there are multiple stations on the site to receive the services. What wasn't clear to me from the statement or from the drawings is clarify the operation regarding what do they mean by full service and where these stages are located and how does the vehicle flow from it. And the reason for this question is to make sure that these operations are contained within the zoning lot and not operating and relying on a lot of the curbside activities. What is the space under the vinyl canopy located along New Utrecht Avenue? What is that used for? Need to relocate the vacuum tower that is located on the north side as per the 1992 grant condition. There is plenty of space along the New Utrecht Avenue frontage. The building is set back, so the vacuum towers could be located there.
Sorry, where is the vacuum that you're talking about?
If you look at the photographs, I think photo 9.
Isn't it next to the entrance to the car wash?
No, it is actually at the exit. So
Okay.
if you look at photo number 9, it is located right at the exit, and at the prior the previous board had asked that that particular vacuum be removed from that location, because what it does is if a car is standing there and a vehicle is coming out of the cleaner, as I call it, then that car is potentially on the sidewalk partially. So so for that reason, the previous board had asked that that particular vacuum tower be relocated from that corner.
So I have a question about that. So don't they vacuum the interior of the car after they've washed it?
So this is the thing, there are different kinds of services that are provided. So some could be full service where the employees of the facilities cleans the interior and then it goes to the exterior clean also. Then there are those that just do exterior clean, and others, and the owner of the vehicle just does the interior vacuum cleaning. So there are combinations of many schemes that many of these car services provide. And I'm assuming this is one of the one such. There are many such, at least I know in my neighborhood. So that's probably what is happening there. Now, what is also interesting is that the hours, as you mentioned, the hours of operation is from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days of the week. Now, the 2002 board had a condition which said that the hours of operation for the automobile vacuum should be limited to 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm assuming that was either a typo, because it doesn't make sense why the vacuum, the automobile vacuum would be operable till 7 p.m. when the entire business closes at 6 p.m. So we need to fix that in this round. What was the reason for specifying, and that's a question I have for the applicant. I'm assuming it's a typo, but maybe the applicant clarify as to the reason for specifying the hours of operation for the automobile vacuum. I was not that much concerned about the Lumen since this is a standalone zoning lot surrounded by, there is a overhead subway line on Utrecht and the avenue widths are quite a bit. So I think this is a C12 overlay. It is standard for many of these business operations to have lights along the property line, as long as, so I really did not see the need for any lumen study or to, so I think for safety reason also it makes sense for the lights to be there, because I don't know where the street lights are. Maybe the applicant can indicate that in the plan.
There actually, just to tell you, there are street lights actually also on the site on the opposite side, whatever street that is, that's on the opposite, 15th Avenue.
Okay. So I don't know if there, I didn't see it based on the site plan, if there are any street lights on this subject block.
Yes,
And
no, that's what I'm saying. There are street lights on this side of 15th Avenue.
okay,
Very
all right.
tall street lights.
Okay, all right.
So, and, yeah, go ahead.
So regarding trash enclosure, they need to provide a detail of the proposed trash enclosure. That was my comment. And now, overall site condition, what I would say is per Google Street View, along the northern tip of the site, near the intersection of New Utrecht Avenue and 15th Avenue. This is more towards the 15th Avenue side though. The city sidewalk has been asphalted over. And I don't believe that would have been done by the city. And if it has not been, the sidewalk should, along this intersection, be restored to the city standard. And whoever did it should be responsible for reverting back to the city standard. And I think that may also be the reason why we see this difficulty in trying to distinguish where the subject lot is versus where the city sidewalk is. So having a clear demarcation, whether that is through yellow stripes or, that those are ways to kind of distinguish the boundaries. And another way, especially the tip of this site, I don't think it's at all usable. Maybe you can put a little planter or something that would also differentiate the boundary line of this property.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Ali Brown.
So this is my second time around for this site. I actually was here in for the previous grant. And the one thing I remember was the difficulty in the scheduling all of the operations within the site, given the actual angles and the shape of the site, because it really does inhibit the ability for them to do all of their maneuvering within the lot lines. And so I think what we did, excuse me, my dog is going crazy for some reason. I think what we did is we ended up being more lenient with them and agreeable, given our understanding, I'm sorry,
No, that's okay.
of their difficulties and their challenges.
Okay.
And so given that, I don't have any particular issues with this site as I see it. I feel like it is a little odd to put the vacuum station by the exit, but I could understand that because there's no place to put the vacuum station by the entrance, because the entrance literally is on the lot line on the sidewalk. So I guess they have changed their operations so that you do a quick vacuum on your way out the door. So I'm fine with that because I don't think they could do anything else other than putting it on the sidewalk, which really is unacceptable.
Right.
So, and I believe, if I recall correctly, the vinyl canopy area was where the more the more intricate detailing of cars that couldn't take place just going through the track of the washer takes place, like the additional polishing and things like that.
Mhm.
So I'm okay with this project. As for the lighting, I feel like the distance from the residential and the fact that the business ends at 6 o'clock, and even in the winter, you're talking about a maximum of about an hour and a half of lighting during dark times. I think that's fine because most people are just getting home from work, having dinner, not really settling into relaxing and going to sleep at 6 p.m. So I think that they'll be fine for that hour and a half from 4:30 to 6 with a little light spill if it goes to those lot lines.
Okay, that's fair. Also, the canopy just is labeled detailing center or something like that. So that's obviously what they do there. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to be repetitive, but I'll talk briefly about three things. Number one, the lighting issue. I don't think lighting from this side is going to be an issue to the adjacent residents across the street. The reason for that, I don't see any significant lights. The only exception for that is one light fixture, and it's actually facing the back of the fixture is facing the residents, or at least it's not directly sending light beams to the residential across the street. So this is one thing. I'm not concerned about the lighting, but I do believe that it's a good idea if they submit to us a plan with the locations and the orientations as well, just in case if one of the fixtures changes orientation in the future and they come back, so like the future board would understand the reason for the issue arising then. The other thing is regarding the hour of operation for the vacuum. Yes, I believe it might be possible that the vacuum hours extend even after the closure of the facility. The reason for that is the vacuum works with coins. So if somebody want to vacuum his car, not just like wash it, he can come stop by, put coins and just vacuum it. So I believe there is nothing like odd with that. Regarding the location of the vacuum, I believe the current location is much better than locating the vacuum on the other side near the inlet, because my understanding is by that detailing canopy where the inlet is, if we put vacuum there, it might generate a noise issue, create a noise issue for the adjacent residential. So I believe the current location is fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shabetto.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm very familiar with this area and this particular car wash. I've seen it I've passed by it hundreds of times. I am okay with this project. I think the lighting isn't really that much of an issue, again, because of the hours, also because of that street lamp, and also because there's well, to the regard of the noise from the vacuum and all other possible strains that this use can give, they're certainly all dwarfed by the subway that's directly above it. I don't think that this creates any noise or lighting that will be that won't be dwarfed by everything else around it.
Okay, thank you. It's true. The rumble of a subway competing against the roar of a vacuum, thinking the vacuum loses. Right. Yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
There we go. Okay, item number 14, 58156BZ, 24-01 to 24-11, 36th Avenue, Queens.
There are no notice requirements for extensions of time. Commissioners should note the most recent set of approved plans from the September 2nd, 2020 letter of substantial compliance was submitted on March 10th this month. You might not have seen it if you reviewed the case before that submission date. The time frame to complete and obtain the certificate of occupancy was included in that March 10th, 2022 cover letter. It is stated that approximately 4 months are needed for this. So I'm asking the applicant, then will an extension of 1 year be sufficient? I'd like to know what the trailers / containers in the parking area as seen in photo 8 and 10 are. These are not on the approved plans and not mentioned in the time frame description. Why would trailers be needed for a trade school unless it's construction related and they're going to go away when work is completed? I just don't understand that. Since so little needs to be done to obtain the certificate of occupancy and the grant was 4 years ago, I would like the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the terms of the grant and the conditions discussed with the board that led them to agree to the grant, namely the fencing, landscaping, removal of the razor wire, removal of steel containers in the parking lot, which are obviously not done because the photo shows steel containers, graffiti on the doors, and provision of firefighting equipment on site, which was one of the conditions. I also see fencing and a covered awning around the stairs and on the sidewalk and ramp in photo number 2 that are not shown on the drawings, or if they are, perhaps it's not shown clearly. If they could correct the drawings to make that clearer, because the awning definitely is not on the drawings. The fence, maybe it's not so clear. And there are no open ECB violations. Vice Chair Shanda.
I was satisfied with the application. I have no comments.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no comments.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I second your comment regarding the time requested. I see that they requested 2 years. They said the work is almost done, and later on they said it needs 4 months. So I'm again asking them whether 1 year would be enough. Thank you.
Right, thanks. Commissioner Shabeta.
I'm satisfied with this application. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you.
Item number 15, 1181-80 BZ 6207 Woodside Avenue, Queens.
Okay, we have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials. Community Board recommends approval. This office and warehouse building with a 2002 certificate of occupancy received its last extension of term in 2001 and submitted 2 months prior to the 20-year expiration date. So I just want to make that clear about whether it doesn't seem like you need a waiver. As far as I understand, the building is built full to the lot line. Based on the photos, the building looks like it has been very well maintained, and its rear facade is fully visible from the Long Island Railroad. So you can also see that its rear facade was well maintained. I didn't find a statement of compliance with the terms of the grant, which included an hours of operation, a requirement for sprinklering, and compliance with C1 signage. So if the applicant could just submit a brief statement of compliance with those terms, and there are no open ECB violations. Commissioner Vice Chair Shanda.
I'm very familiar with this site. This building is very well maintained. And I was satisfied with this application. The only thing is, as you mentioned, the statement of fact needs to be beefed up a little bit. And I just want to know, with regards to the usage that's in the cellar, is it still being used as a warehouse? And because the site was rezoned to a C13, I mean, it has a commercial overlay. When it was before the board, it did not have a commercial overlay. So now it has a commercial overlay, and office use is permitted up to 2 FAR. And I just wanted to know what is the continuation use of the cellar, because that's the only place where the use group 16 is cited as part of the CO. And I also want to just confirm the hours of operation, as you stated, and the signage, the statement of fact should just clarify that the signage continues to comply with the underlying regulation, which is C13.
Mhm. So in other words, you want clarity on the hours of operation?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, again, compliance. It's consistent with what you're saying,
Okay.
that it complies with the hours of operation, it complies with the signage regulation, and the statement of fact should clarify that not only does it comply, it meets with the underlying C13 regulation.
Okay.
Otherwise, I was satisfied with this application.
Thank you. All right, one second. Thanks. Okay, Commissioner Ollie Brown?
My only question has to do with their amendment to remove the term. They just need to give us a statement as to why.
Thank you. Commissioner Sheta?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if they submitted a statement of facts after the one that was submitted initially, but I'm looking at this statement of facts and I see some inconsistency in the language, especially when it comes to the grant dates with respect to the expiration dates, or vice versa, actually, the expiration dates of some grants with respect to the original grant date. For example, on page 1, it says, then on July 1983, BSA granted an extension of time to complete, which expired April 7th, 83. So I'm not sure, April 7, 83, I believe it's before July 1983. So how come it expires before it's granted?
Wow.
This inconsistency is repeated twice. So this is one thing to start with. Number 2, they mentioned in the statement that construction is almost complete, and then the time requested is to complete. So I'm not sure, is there anything left? You indicated that construction is complete and then you're asking for time to complete. That's confusing. I saw some differences between the floor plans previously approved and the ones that currently submitted, especially on the 3rd floor. If they have some explanations for these changes, that would be appreciated. The next point is, the DOB sign off on the existing conditions? If yes, have you done any modifications since then? And then are there any violations given to the project? Thank you.
Right. So I did look up, there are no ECB violations, so I always check that myself. So, okay. Yeah, let me just go to Commissioner. Thank you. But they did acknowledge that there are interior layout changes. You just want them to be a little more detailed on that, give more information?
Some explanations on why. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Shabeta?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any further comments on this.
Okay, and I see Vice Chair Shonda's hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. In the zoning chart, it shows that there is a 35 square foot of front yard and 18 square foot of rear yard. And I agree with your earlier statement, Madam Chair, that you said it's a full lot line building. So I was trying to figure out where that front yard and rear yard is, and maybe it's just so the applicant could just clarify that.
Okay, maybe that's just what it says 35 square feet or 35 feet?
35 square feet.
Who gives square feet a front yard unless you have to do planting?
Yeah, I couldn't, I think unless it's only the entrance to the building, because the building entrance is set back slightly. So that's the only place where I can see the possible 35 square feet. So I wasn't quite sure. So that's why I'm just, it's just a little bit of cleaning up probably.
Okay, thank you. Funny, because there's also no front yard regulations in a C6, and an R6, I mean. So that's odd. Okay, thank you. Good, thanks. We can go on to the next.
Oh, sorry. Item number 16, 40682 BZ, 2411 86th Street, Brooklyn.
All right, there are no notice requirements for extensions of time. This is only an application for an extension of time to obtain a certificate of occupancy. The term of the special permit does not expire until 2024. A time frame to obtain a certificate of occupancy was submitted on March 10th, 22. It appears that 2 years is what is being requested. I just want the applicant to confirm. However, please provide proof of compliance with the terms of the 2020 grant, including indication that the site complies with the drawings. It mostly looks like it does from what I could tell, but the applicant should go through that. Photos number 2, 4, and 5 show a container at the site. What is that? Although this is only, as I said, an extension of time to obtain a CO, I note that the approved plan set has a BSA approval stamp that obscures the drawing. I don't know if that's all we have in our records. So so a new set of drawings should be provided to the board that is legible, so that we can restamp it, because at the moment you can't see a lot of the drawings because it's obscured by that. You know, it's not even a watermark, it's obscured by this opaque thing, unless Carlo or can clarify what happens in fact with those stamped drawings, because I'm really concerned now that many drawings are being stamped with an opaque stamp right on top in the middle of the drawings. That's terrible. Okay. And that's really my only comment there. This is more of a procedural thing. But anyway, okay, Vice Chair Shanda.
I just had one question for the applicant to clarify during the public hearing. The applicant noted there is one ECB violation, open violation. So yeah, I couldn't quite figure out what the violation was for. It said storefront north elevation exit door. So if the applicant could just clarify, otherwise I was satisfied with the application.
I didn't see, what I'm usually focusing on is, do they owe money? And I didn't see anything open when I went to the biz site. Okay, thanks. Commissioner Ollie Brown.
I have no additional comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I agree that the site looks like it's well maintained. I would like to know whether there are any complaints from neighbors with respect to noise, lighting, or anything else. There is a crack when looking at the photos on Google. There is a crack on the refuse wall. I can show this. Give me 1 second.
You mean on the enclosure?
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. You see that? That's what I'm talking about. If I'm not sure if they fixed it. I got this from Google picture actually when zooming to the wall. But if they fix it, I'm fine with it. If not, I just wanted to alert them about it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's funny, these things always crack at exactly the same spot. What is that? They don't know how to turn a corner with masonry? I don't understand. We always see the crack there. So, okay. Commissioner Shavetta.
Thank you, Chair. I'm familiar with the site as well. It is very well maintained. I have no further questions for this.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Okay.
Item number, may we move on?
Yes.
Item number 17, 66-90 BZ, 4303 Astoria Boulevard, Queens.
Okay. We have proof of service. Sorry. We have proof of, uh-oh, something's happening on my side with the speaker. Can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. We have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials. Community Board recommends conditional approval. I'll read their conditions, and there with the recommendation for a term of 10 years. that there be no sales of cars on the premises, that the sidewalks and curbs are repaired, that the premises be kept free of debris, that the landscaping be in accordance with the approved BSA plans and be replaced and maintained as necessary, that the dumpster be screened with 100% opaque screening, that the fencing on the east side of the property have 100% screening, that these stipulations be noted on the C of O, and all lighting be directed away from adjacent residential properties. A revised statement of facts was submitted on Friday to correct the requested waiver. So I don't know if everyone saw it, but that was a big discussion about which is the proper waiver. So they did correct it. There are no ECB penalties due. This is a site with a history of DOB padlocking prior to 2009 for failure to obtain a CO, but there is in place a 2012 CO now, which expired with the term in October of 2021. And just to clarify, although the calendar number is 1990, that was the reinstatement of a 1959 variance under section 11-411. Tony, I'm muting you because there's feedback. The site is in an R5 with residential along both side lot lines, although garages associated with the residential use are located along 2/3 of one of the side lot lines. The statement of fact states that there are 10-foot and 12-foot concrete walls along the property lines. That is the condition in some portion of the side lot lines, but not all. So clarify on the drawings and provide photos of all the perimeter conditions. This is like an ongoing mantra to understand exactly where the site is protected or is protecting the neighbors and where it's not adequately doing that. The space between the subject building and the east-west side lot line appears to be filled with junk, and there is no buffer other than a 4-foot high chain link fence. On the north-south side lot line, there is a similar condition, and the trash storage is located adjacent to the rear yard of a small house. Approved drawings show there is a planting bed with curb, but it appears to be sparsely landscaped, in fact, and not at all landscaped adjacent to the rear yard of the small house. The proposed drawings show the landscaping was eliminated next to the rear yard of that small house and replaced with a shed and trash dumpsters. So imposing really the most obnoxious part of the use on this one little house. The photos don't show enough about the perimeter conditions to understand the full story. Additional photos were submitted on Friday, but they don't show the perimeter conditions. I actually don't know why those photos were submitted, but anyway, I don't know what they show because there's no cover letter. The asphalt appears to be in bad condition and in need of resurfacing. Lighting poles are pointed out on the photos and look like they may be a significant source of light spread onto the adjoining residential property, in spite of what the previously approved Lumen spread diagram shows. It drops from 19 foot candles to 0 in 5 feet. This just doesn't make sense. Even with a really fantastic shield, it doesn't make sense. So they need to provide a new lumen spread study using on-site metering. And those were my comments. Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you. Oh, where am I? Okay. So first of all, per plan Z001, there are 5 parking spaces, which is not consistent with the statement of facts stated as shown on page 3 of 6, second paragraph. Statement of facts says 3 parking spaces, so then it needs to be consolidated. The applicant did not go through the compliance with regards to prior condition. It did provide for 1959 and 2011, but did not go through 1991 and 2000. The landscaping, it wasn't clear from the Google aerial regarding the landscaping condition, regarding the existence of especially the one along the corner in the rear that you were referring to, abutting the residential building. And the other part is that the asphalt is in need of repair. I agree with you. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown?
I, as well as you, would appreciate photos taken from the interior site, looking at all of the lot lines, and a photo key to give us the most recent look at those conditions alongside the lot lines. Because from the photos that I've seen, and I have not been to see this site, it just appears that they are definitely letting their business bleed out of their lot lines and affect the neighbor. I saw that they have a proof of continuous use since October 2020, and I went through it, and there are Con Ed bills from September 2020 to August 2021, and garbage pickup bills from September 2020 to July 2021, and those are fine. And so those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I share the comments regarding the lumen spread. I cannot believe that the lighting goes down from about 20 foot candles down to 0 within that short distance. That shows us the importance of the measurements rather than the modelings. I'm concerned about the dumpster as well. If you look at photo number 11, it's immediately adjacent to residential. So I'm not sure if could be relocated in the back at that area, which I'm not sure about the use of that area right behind that convenience store. Previous plans didn't indicate that this area is going to be used for parking, but if you look at the current plans, it says that employee parking, this area is used for employee parking. So I'm not sure if employee parking was accounted for from the beginning of this grant. And that's all what I have for now. Thank you.
And Commissioner Shebeka.
I share the board's concerns with regard to this use negatively affecting the neighborhood. I did also find that they did have continuous use. So I'm not sure how they're going to address the lighting, but there needs to be some sort of explanation as to how they did that kind of drop.
Okay, well, not an explanation. They need to monitor. They need to measure it.
Yeah.
Not explain how that could possibly happen, but instead measure it so we can see what it actually is now. Okay. All right, thank you.
Final item is item number 18, 201-97BZ 11902 Rockaway Boulevard, Queens.
There are no notice requirements for extensions of time. There is a compliance chart to indicate that photos demonstrate compliance with the terms of the 2017 grant. However, I didn't find a photo number 17 that is supposedly showing the left-hand turn sign. The numbers only go up to 16 on the key. There is a detailed, if somewhat confusing timeline provided to show the status of the certificate of occupancy. The statement of fact simplifies that the request is 2 years, so just please confirm that. The trash enclosure looks pretty good, but the steel doors are in need of a paint job, unless maybe there was maybe that's old photos. The photo at view 13 shows some vending machines not indicated on the plans. The photo key drawing is flipped. And the building is in the wrong place relative to the arrows. The arrows are like inside a building, but it's actually supposed to be a picture, the arrows pointing to the building, so the whole thing's upside down. There is a concrete wall with wood fence above that's in need of resurfacing and replacement. The fence is in need of replacement if that's the fence belonging to this property owner, but the concrete wall definitely needs some kind of finish treatment. It looks like it's moldy. I'd like to know who owns the wood fence. I said that already. And neither of these are indicated or called out on the site plan. So I'm not sure who owns that. Maybe that's why it's not called out, but it should be called out and the property line indicated with respect to that. Okay, Vice Chair Shonda.
I did not have any comments on this. I was satisfied with the application.
Okay. Commissioner Ollie Brown,
I have no comments.
Commissioner Sheta,
Thank you, Chair. Just regarding the fence, when you put a wood fence on top of a wall, I'm usually concerned about the stability of that wall because the wall itself cannot collect that much wind forces in case of like heavy wind. But if you put something on top, like a wood fence, it's going to be imposing additional forces on the wall that the wall might not be designed to withstand. So I would advise them to take a look at that wall and see whether it's capable of withstanding that wood fence above it. Thank you.
I have a question about that. We often, maybe it's how it's installed, because we often see a base like a knee wall where they insert, let's just say, a metal picket fence on top of that, where that's something actually the board asks for. Is it because it's a solid fence? Is that why you're saying that?
No, even if it's not solid, even if you put something that's perforated, being perforated doesn't mean that it's not going to collect any wind forces, lateral forces. I mean, it depends on like how much perforation you have. But if the wall is designed to take the forces, I'm okay with a solid fence, a plain fence with no perforation. But if the wall is not designed to withstand any additional forces other than, let's say, there is some differential in the grades, so some lateral pressure from the soil, and that's all what is the wall is designed for. And you come and put even a perforated fence on top of that, that might put that wall in risk, because if you're imposing additional forces on the wall that's not designed to withstand, and that's not good.
Okay, so this is really just a heads up to them that they should
Yes.
take a look at that. Okay,
Yes.
just a heads up. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shabeta.
I have no further comments on this.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public review session.
Okay, so you know what, let's, before we start on the hearing, take a 10-minute break and then we'll continue, okay? So coming back at 11:40, okay? everybody could come back, please.
Ready?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Afternoon yet? No, still 11:40. Okay.
Mhm.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for March 28th, 2022. The first item is SOC calendar, continued hearing items, item number 11, 758-84 BZ, 1444 Clove Road, Staten Island.
Okay. Letting Mr. Busanelli in.
Mr. Busanelli?
I'm here.
Okay, press panelist. You're muted. You're muted now.
I didn't mute him.
Unmuted.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your response, in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
David Busanelli, applicant.
Mhm. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. I attended the review session and I thank you for the compliments. I understand that the drawings are good and that we will be installing the planting and the trash enclosure. We had stated in a previous submission a date of April 30th or so for submission.
Okay, you think that's enough time? So it's only a month to,
Yeah, given the weather today and the possibility of some more cold, if we could have let's say the middle of May, that would, I think, give us enough time to get everything done.
okay, that's great. Okay. All right, let's go to the public. Thank you.
So the case we are currently discussing is 758-84 BZ, 1444 Clove Road, Staten Island. Should you wish to discuss this item, please dial in 646-558-8656. You'll be asked to enter the webinar ID number, which is 960-1176-8373#. Press pound, not the participant ID number, as instructed. Press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute when you're permitted in the Zoom room. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay, so we're going to give just a little bit. I don't know that there was any testimony. We did receive the letter from the owner formally requesting the term be eliminated, and we're obviously okay with that and appreciate the improvement to the landscaping and so on. Okay, then. So I think there's been enough time for people to call in. Let's see, hold on a second. I don't see any hands up in the waiting room to speak on this or anybody calling in. So I'd like to make a motion to close. Tony, you're muted. Tony, you're muted. She knows.
I don't know, there's something that comes across my screen for some reason. Chair Perlmutter for the motion to close.
Yes, aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown? I didn't hear you. You're muted. Thank you. Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you.
Thank
we'll
you.
notify you of a new date.
Right, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 12, 519-57BZ, 2071 Victory Boulevard, Staten Island.
Please raise your Zoom hand. I don't know whose case this is.
This is Vasalati, so that should be, I think, Hiram or Andrew DeGrolamo, Adam DeGrolamo.
So,
Hiram,
please raise- is Hiram's there? Is he in? No,
This Hiram.
he didn't raise his hand. That's why. Is this your case?
Hiram, speak up.
I think he's in that transition of accepting panelists.
Oh, okay. Hey, Mr. Rutherford. Okay, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hiram Rothkrug. Yes. Yes,
Guess
I'm
what?
here. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm representing Vasilani on the application.
I see. Okay. Were you able to listen to our review session?
I did.
Okay. You want to go ahead? Can you hear us?
Mr. Rutherford, do you have your YouTube on? If you do, turn it off.
All right, hold on.
Maybe you're listening, I don't know.
I think that's what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that long time delay and he's answering the questions 20 seconds later.
Okay, is that good?
Yeah. Also,
All right, we're all set.
okay, good.
So we made a submission to the board advising that we filed the Note 1 application seeking a C of O. We also revised our statement of facts to include the 2 A cases the board had discussed at the prior hearing. On our revised plans, we show a new trash enclosure. Hold on, let me get that up on my screen.
Did you hear, were you able to listen to the review session?
I did, but
Okay.
I'm going over things. So
Okay.
we proposed 6-foot high chain link fence with 100-foot slats, which was recommended by the vice chair at the prior hearing. We don't feel that there's a need for a masonry enclosure, given that we're next to a commercial area and tucked away on the site.
I need to look at the drawings. That's not necessarily relevant. The issue about the chain link fences and these is that they fall apart and they look terrible. And they don't end up enclosing the trash. They end up just looking terrible. Whereas the masonry enclosures, as you might guess, last for a long time and are better built and can be easily maintained, whereas chain link fence within a couple of, sometimes just a matter of months, looks terrible. So I'm not really sure where you decided that you're going to follow this direction versus that direction. So the only time that in the last, I don't know how long we've accepted a chain link fence enclosure is on one tiny little site where it was impossible to install a masonry enclosure. It was just, there was no room. That's not the case here. Okay, continue.
We show new planting along the northern lot line from the curb cut to the rear lot line. We showed it as 3 feet. We did that because we didn't want any interference with cars awaiting service in the loading bay to push those cars out, so that would cause an interior problem with circulation. But if the board,
But the 4 feet, they won't survive in 3 feet. It's not big enough for a tree ball.
okay, we'll make it 4 feet and we'll give the board the sectional in-ground plan that they were requesting.
Okay.
As far as the The fence at the northwest lot line, we repaired the slats and repaired the fence back there, and we submitted photos to the board.
I didn't see, sorry. We also have to, you submitted photos to show the repair of the fence?
Correct. We did that on Thursday or Friday.
Ah.
I mean, it took them that long. As soon as we had pictures that the fence was repaired, we submitted to the board.
So can you, because this is arriving piecemeal and we can't tell what the most recent photos are because they're all arriving piecemeal, can you please submit photos all the way around the perimeter so that we can, from inside the site, all the way around the perimeter, showing the condition of the site and keying it to the plans? Because it's really hard to know what the conditions are.
Well, that's another thing we did. We did submit a key plan with the compliance detailing the photos to the board as well.
No, you submitted a key plan showing the keying the old photos to the site, not new photos, which is what we asked for. We asked for new photos showing the perimeter of the site keyed to the site plan. So at the moment, it's like a mystery. What's really going on the perimeter of the site?
All right, I don't think there's much of a mystery, but okay. The last thing is we, as far as lighting, there was an area light halfway between the street line and the rear lot line, and we removed that area light. And then the area light at the curb cut for at Bradley Avenue, we reduced that in height and put a shield around so that it wouldn't have any impact on the adjacent residents. Plus, we gave the board a new lumen spread, which in accordance with the board shows that there wouldn't be any light from the canopy hitting the adjacent two-story residence.
Confused again. You gave us a lumen spread that's based on monitoring?
On modeling, yes.
No, you did it on modeling,
Correct.
monitoring.
No,
The
I said modeling.
Oh, okay, but the instructions are that you actually do field measurements, not modeling.
I don't think it's necessary for this application, Chair.
Mr. Rothkrug, the instructions are that you do field measuring. That's how we determine whether there's light spread, and that's what we do with all of the applications.
I know, but we're 63 feet away from the side lot line, and then it's another 8 feet to the adjacent residence. So it's about over 70 feet away from the canopy to that adjacent residence, and we don't think that we don't think that. And with the lumen spread modeling that we did, we show that we comply with the board's lighting, and we don't believe that we think it's punitive. We don't think it's necessary for this site.
But you heard us clear during the last hearing.
At the last hearing, you did not. At the last hearing, you did not.
Mr. Rothkrug, you cannot interrupt when a commissioner is speaking. One person.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
At the last hearing, you just asked for a new lumen spread because, as the chair pointed out, bulbs changed in the canopy light. There was never any request from the last hearing, and I'd have to go back and listen to the minutes that we actually have to go on site and do a turn on, turn off.
So you're saying that we didn't ask for a luminous spread that's based on readings during the last hearing?
Correct. You asked for a new lumen spread.
Did you listen to the last hearing? Were you attending that hearing?
I was at the last hearing, Commissioner.
Because after I saw you submitting something based on modeling, what I did is I went back to the hearing video on YouTube, and I listened to myself and to the chair, and it was crystal clear that we're asking for a luminous spread diagram that's based on readings, monitorings, that complies with our administrative notice that we issued previously. So I'm not sure how did you miss it. And in addition, I had the project manager send an email a week before the hearing asking for the same. And again, you submitted one that's based on modeling. I believe this is waste of the board's time here. If we ask for something and you don't have the intention to submit it, we could have discussed this during the last hearing. And if you convince us, then you're off the hook. If you do not, then submit the thing and get things done, get things moving forward. I believe this is the way it should be done.
And by the way, the modeling isn't showing 0 on the residential property line. It's above 0.
It's
So
showing-
it's showing above 0. I'm looking at the drawings right now.
It's showing 0.2. A
Yeah.
candle is 1.0. We're
Wow.
0.2 at the property line, and then add another 8 feet for the adjacent residents, there's nothing. There's
No,
nothing.
no. We're not you're measuring to the people's house. We measure to the people's property. They have a right not to be lit on their property. But I'm really confused, Mr. Rothkrug. Why are you pushing back on every single instruction? All this does is delay the processing of the application. We've talked about this with other applicants. I have a light meter. You can buy a light meter for $125 on Amazon and go and read the meters with the lights on, lights off. It does not require that you hire specialists and so on. You just go to the site, you turn the lights off, you measure, you turn the light, and you make note of it, and you turn the lights on, and you measure, and you make note of it. I'm not understanding why you're pushing back on 100% of the things that we said before. And it's just going to delay the processing of your application and doing your client a disservice.
Well, quite frankly, Chair, I think we showed a lot of goodwill with the things that we did and the things that we're proposing. And I think it's a excellent operating station with 100% community board support. And quite frankly, a lot of these things are, we just think it's some of these items that you're requesting are punitive, that's all.
I don't really understand what to do with you. Would you behave this way in front of the City Planning Commission or the Landmarks Commission? I don't think so. You're being directed to do something. Do it.
All right, well, I have to consult with the client, and it's going to take us a little bit of time to get this done.
There were other things you were also supposed to do that you didn't do, which I read earlier in the review session. I'm not understanding why these things aren't being done.
As far as adding the waivers or whatever, I apologize, I missed that. That's a 2-second fix in my statement of facts.
I'll make the fix. All right, what else? Okay,
Nothing.
so, all right, so we're gonna go down to the public.
So the case we are currently discussing is 51957BZ 2071 Victory Boulevard, Staten Island. This is an extension of term. You may call in by dialing 646-558-8656. Enter the webinar ID number, which is 960-1176-8373, and press pound. You will then be instructed to enter the participant ID number, which you can ignore and just press pound. Once you're in the Zoom room, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute to speak. If you are already in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay, I see Chief Bailey's hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the review session, I had heard you had asked questions regarding the fire department, if we had any comments on this application, and we do not have any comments. We have inspected these premises. They are current with their permits with respect to storage of combustible and flammable liquids. Also, there are fire suppression system over the existing gas tanks. Therefore, the fire department has no objection to this application. Thank you.
So there's no longer any kind of waiver for self-service pumps, though the code was changed, right?
That's correct. They do have a dry chem system over the gas tanks. The gas pumps. So the self-service is permitted at this location.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I don't see anyone else calling in. Okay, so I'm just, yeah,
Yeah, just, I believe I did hear Mr. Rusker indicating that the residences are like far away from the site. I wasn't looking at the site plan nor the aerial image, but I'm looking at it right now, and I do believe that they have adjacent residences. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
yes,
So if you have, Mr. Rusker, if you have adjacent residences, how come that you're claiming that residences are across the street, and you didn't hear it last hearing that we asked for measurements? I believe I'm appealing to applicants like these. They should cooperate with us so we can move cases forward. This is not the way that city time should be wasted. It can't be like that. I'm really upset.
yeah. Okay, I agree with you. I think this is very disrespectful. I don't think that other agencies would receive the type of disrespect that we get from some applicants. I'm also upset. So Mr. Rothkrug, I'm going to go through again. We need to see the waivers that I mentioned. You have to submit a request for waiver and follow the instructions in our regulation, in our rules about the waivers. There are two different ones. You need to change the drawings to show a masonry enclosure and not pick and choose which thing you feel like doing. It's a masonry enclosure with steel doors for the benefit not only of the immediate neighbors, but for the entire community. And then we must see a lumen spread diagram, but you don't need to do it across the site. You do it for, you can take measurements 10 feet in intervals of 5 feet, 10 feet away from the property line and 5 feet over the property line. And you do that with a handheld meter that is readily available inexpensively. You don't need to go and hire special specialists to do this. And it's noted on the drawings. And if you need help with how to do that, then you can contact our project manager or speak to Carlo about this, Carlo Costanza or Jella Prenga about this. Okay. And I think that's it. Okay. So,
Okay, so he still has to provide new photos, right?
yes, and perimeter photos, exactly right.
And
Photos
please
of-
make sure your plans are updated in the title block.
Yes, exactly, with the date, thank you, Tony, with the date of the most recent, the plans that are being submitted on the drawings itself. Okay, you got that, Mr. Rothkrug?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right then. How much time do you need to do that?
We'd
Can
like-
I ask a question?
Yes,
With regards to the property line, are we referring to specifically the property line abutting the residential use or
yes,
both?
it's the residential property.
Okay, thank you.
But the residential property is long, so it's got to be the entirety of the residential property line, okay? Lights on, lights off, those are the instructions. Okay. How much time do you need?
Like a hearing date in May,
How much time do you need to submit the materials?
60 days.
2 months to submit, okay. I'm just checking the site plan. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so the residential property line certainly extends the entirety of that side lot line. I don't know if it wraps the corner, but it's certainly the entirety of that east-west side lot line. Okay, all right then, I'm noting 60 days. Please make sure your submission is complete. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
New cases, item number 13, 1069, 27 BZ, 6702, 6724 New Utrecht Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Catrona, we just let you in.
He's muted.
Yeah, I think because he has to accept the panelists, and so he stays muted. There you go.
Oh, okay,
We
sorry.
doing? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, yes, we do. Can you raise your right hand? Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do. Yes.
Please state your name and proceed.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, BSA staff. My name is Glenn Catrona, AIA. I'm representing 68 Car Wash, Inc., also known as Tip Top Car Wash. They're located at 6702 New Utrecht Avenue, and that is Brooklyn, New York. And so we're requesting an extension of term on an existing operation of an automatic laundry, salmonizing room, offices for an additional 10 years. I had been listening in on the executive session, hear everything loud and clear. I appreciate the nature of the comments are manageable, and we're happy to pursue and provide the information at a follow-up. I just have a question before I go on, and I'll articulate what I think we need to submit. But during this time here, since the executive session, we pulled the guidelines for drawings. And Madam Chair, you're 100% correct. We did not make any changes whatsoever, but from the original submission, we had followed up and we submitted a table of drawing revisions as required by the guidelines for drawings, which simply noted that we added a dimension, that we added a note. And so I am reading the 10/14/2020 and then the one that's effective in January of 22. I didn't see anything in there that specifically says that if it's any changes from. So if that's something that we need to take into account moving forward, so be it. But it didn't read clearly like that it was only for changes that were from a prior approvals from a prior hearing. You know, we simply noted, we bubbled up where we added a note, where we added a dimension for clarity.
Okay.
And I don't know how you want me to correct it at this particular point, but on our resubmission, that was what we had done.
Okay, so no, it's really, so this is a little bit of an internal issue too. So the project managers may request over the course of their notice of comments before it comes to hearing, they may request modifications to the drawings, right? But ultimately, what we should be seeing as the commissioners, because it's the first time we review the application, the project managers should be giving us a clean set, not a bubbled set. Because if we see a bubbled set, then I read it as this is a change between the prior approval and the new submission, and us reading it for the first time. The project managers can be receiving the bubbled sets, but we shouldn't be looking at them. We should be looking at a clean set. So maybe that was what part of the problem was, okay?
Understood.
So, but if there are changes between the previously approved drawings and the one you submit, then yes, you should be bubbling that. So even if it's a note that you added, at least we'll know, okay, that note wasn't on the drawings, right? So that's fine. So, and if you make another submission, not sure you need one, but if you make another submission, then you would only bubble the difference between the last submission you made and the next submission. So we don't see like a continuing pile of bubbles, because unlike what you might do is with a construction set where you're maintaining the bubbles and the little caret number, we don't want to see the prior changes. We just want to see the most recent ones.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So, I mean, substantively, what I heard here, yeah, there is that curb cut, which is sort of like the southwest curb cut, which is almost at the intersection of Ovington Avenue. That is not used. That, yes, I believe was noted previously. We will address that there and take it from there. Also, we'll have to do a resubmission because we need to submit some details for the trash enclosure. The way that they work, that trash enclosure, believe it or not, goes into the building at night and gets moved out there when they open up in the morning to operate. So I don't know if that would constitute, storage of that. It is open and to the public during operation hours.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything we could discuss about that, or should we request that they provide an enclosure and duly noted on our drawings.
So we've had, and I'm trying to figure out, because that was the other question we had, was about how this actually operates. Like, where do the cars go? Where do they stand? We've had a couple of cases where the site is so teeny or even that there's no other land, it's built full to the lot. So they pull the container out of the shop and then they have to bring it in at night. I would be okay with that if the other commissioners are okay, because otherwise the trash enclosure seems like, the dumpster seems like it's going to be in the way permanently of work. I'm not really sure how you might manage that. The other option is you have I'm looking at the old drawings, because let's see, hold on a second. Yeah, your original drawings have rooms that are called chemical room, garage, like that. Is there any room in either of those?
There is also the garage space, which is the salmonizing place. But what they do is they actually store it in where the outlet is for the, for the flow of the car wash itself. So they manage it on that side of the building. Those other uses are on the other side of the building, especially the garage where they can actually do the salmonizing and those types of detailing is within the garage area on the other side of the building. So, I mean, maybe operationally they move it, but still they're storing it inside the building, on the other side. So.
You mean after hours or during?
Yeah, after hours, they pull it in and then they pull it out in the morning once they open up the station and start to have a flow of vehicles through the building.
So those two, I need to look at the most recent plans. The two drawings on the two rooms that are where you enter,
Yes.
those rooms are used for, so a car pulls in there, or that's just where they store equipment?
No, the garage, the room that's noted garage, which is the first room, is accessed from the outside. That's where they actually pull vehicles in to do a substantive detailing. And there's space in there. Once in the evening, when the vehicles are not in there, there is most certainly space to store. But operationally, the way that they've been using it, they've been bringing it in and pulling it out on the other side of the building, and simply putting it up against the clothing and shoe drop boxes that are there.
Mm-hmm. And the clothing and shoe drop boxes, aren't they in the way of like everything on a little bitty site like this? Why do you?
Well, they're really not coming in that way because the curb cut that is adjacent to the one that we talked about that should be removed is where vehicles come in to actually do the vacuuming and detailing. If they're doing interior service, they pull in there, they turn left, they go under the canopy. The people are there, workers are there doing that process, and then they simply just come around the building. There's enough space there. This here line that I have coming off of where you would enter, I'm sorry, maybe if we're looking at the site plan, that's an outdoor space. It's covered there. So the face of the building is insignificantly. I actually drew a dimension line there and thought that I would add a dimension line to my next submission so that you can see that vehicles can queue there comfortably before they start to enter the car wash principal portion. Look, I'd be happy to discuss with the owners. I need to get out to the site. I want to locate some of the lights that are existing on the building as requested. A couple of things that I'd like to just simply check while I'm there, which, I mean, I guess those were the substantive items that were brought up.
Yeah.
I also know this here location since I'm a child. It's interesting because the overhead train, no question about it. It's noisy, but I think that's what people in the neighborhood love because not many places have an overhead train as this location does. And there are some heavier commercial uses in and around the adjacent, but we are sensitive to 15th Avenue where we do have some interface across the street. Interesting, it's this is an island itself. So we're not adjacent to anything but streets. So yes, there are city lights that are there. I'd like to locate them. I'm not 100% sure that I would do that there just simply by pictures. So we'll go visit the site. But if there's something that we could do about that there, if we would have to put the enclosure, probably what I would look to do is to try to move some of this stuff over because it definitely is at the pinch point there. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're not building any kind of enclosure, outside of the principal property line. Also, we'll try to obtain a survey. The owners of this particular location, when this here was granted a variance in 1956, I believe are pretty consistent. So I'm sure that they have records. If I don't need to go out and get a brand new survey, I'm sure we can get something to add to our package for research.
Right. I'm sure that in order to file a DOB or even to purchase the property, there was a survey done. And I've been able to get surveys from the 1950s from some of the old surveyors. And so you don't actually need to get a new survey. It's more like to contact whoever handles this neighborhood and get a copy of an old survey. I'm sure they exist.
Just so that you know, I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. The surveyors that we work with regularly on our architectural projects, they're willing to share with us. Most surveyors get queasy letting old surveys out without considering doing an update, to be upfront with you. So, but you requested it, we'll see what we can do. Okay.
I mean, even if all you do is go look at the survey and copy the data from the survey, something like that. It's just that it's really, I don't know how else you'll be able to plot the property line relative to the building location, right? Unless you try to do the measurements yourself, I don't really know how you're going to do that because it's such an odd shape.
Yep.
But the pinch point issue is that your new drawings show it's so tight that it barely clears one of those boxes. And the original drawings showed there was enough room to put a car there.
I understand the request, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
address that. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Outside of that, the city sidewalk, I know Vice Chair Chanda had commented about the 67th Street that they actually asphalted over a portion of what we would consider sidewalk area. Again, want to visit the site to understand what was done there, okay, and see what needs to be addressed. And I would agree that it should be brought to city standards. So we'll check that. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I know there was a lot of comments and, but some of them were that we are actually comfortable with some of this here, that we understand the way the plan was. I know Commissioner Otley Brown had seen this here before on the last iteration. We'll address everything and we'll re-review the executive session and resubmit. I need a little bit of time, so I'll be
Okay, oh, slow down. We talk about time when we're waiting for people to call in. That's how we make up time, right? But I see Vice Chair's hand up, but I just want to remind that we also like a maneuverability or an operational plan, because for instance, on your drawing BSA 5, you show cars, but we don't really see how they circulate, how that works, right? So if you could have kind of, car arrives here, car goes this way, at the end of this process, it goes that way, or maybe for the ones that get special detailing, they never go through that machine. So car arrives here, it exits here, like that. Because, so.
Understood.
Okay. And because one of the things is when I look on Street View, there are clearly two cars sitting on the sidewalk in order to be detailed. And so but I don't see that it seems to be that necessary, given that you've got a special detailing canopy, and then you also show these cars right outside of the canopy. They seem to be fitting. And then the car that comes out that passes by the vacuum, that also seems to be fitting. So I'm not really sure why we see them doing the detailing on the sidewalk, understanding the constraints of the site, et cetera. Okay. Okay, and Vice Chair Shanda, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So as I'm looking at the Google aerial, along the new Utrecht Avenue, there are vehicles that are parked along that stretch where the vinyl is there. So I'm assuming that those vehicles there are being treated for something. They're not just parked there. And that's why I was suggesting if that is an area of treatment, why couldn't the vacuum tower be located there where people could, and that's why I think the flow chart would be helpful. I mean, some people do vacuum after, some people do it before. It's so just
So
from
the
that.
question is relative to that is to describe the vacuum that is on the exit.
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
exit.
yeah.
Okay.
Where are you seeing that there are cars? Where are you-
If you do Google aerial,
okay.
right next to the New Utrecht Avenue, next to the vinyl cover, that little bit of that wedge that's there between the building and the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There are about 4 or 5 vehicles that are parked.
Yes.
That seems like a reasonable place to park and finish up whatever that needs to be done. The question is, who is using it? Are the ones who need the fine cleaning or other things that happens, or is it anyone who can park there and then do further deep dive cleaning themselves? So if it is combination of both or either, it's from an operational point of view. That's why I'm asking the question: would it make sense to have the vacuum tower there?
Okay.
I will review that with the owner.
Yeah. Right. It's interesting because I don't know how recent the street view is, the aerial view is, but it's different than what your BSA 5 drawing looks like, where the cars are headed out of that detailing instead of being perpendicular to the building, they're parallel to the building. So it may not actually be how they function. They may pull out and then head in to be perpendicular to the building, and then that's where the work gets done.
We'll review
So,
it
yeah.
and resubmit for sure.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, let's go to the public.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Did you discuss, I thought Commissioner Sheta had a thing about the orientation of the plans? The building on the plans or something? Was I mistaken?
Oh, no, maybe, was that me with the photo? Hold on a
The
second.
lighting.
The lighting, he just
Oh,
wanted,
that was,
yeah.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. All
He
right.
just wanted the lighting shown on the drawing, like where are the lights installed?
Oh, okay.
And that they're pointed down. I think, because you can see it in the photograph that they're pointed down.
I'm
Okay,
clear, Commissioner Sheta's comment. We'll also add just simply where the street lighting in terms of designation on the plan, where the pole lighting is, as well as where we'll locate what's on the building. Try to get some clear information on that.
Okay, so we're going to the public?
Yeah.
The case we're currently discussing is 1069-27BZ, 6702, 6724 New Utrecht Avenue, Brooklyn. Should you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. You will enter the webinar ID number, which is 960-1176-8373#. You also press the pound sign when you're asked to enter the participant ID number. Then you will press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute when you're in the Zoom room to speak. If you are already in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand to speak.
Thank you. Okay, so now we get to the point of how much time you need to submit these materials.
Madam Chair, I would say if 6 weeks or so, just beyond 6 weeks would be sufficient for us to do this work.
All right. All right. So any last questions? Because I don't see anybody calling in on this. Mr. Catrona, anything?
I think I'm good. I want to thank everybody. Wish everybody a good day.
Thank you.
So we'll be notified of submission and a hearing.
Yes, exactly. I wrote 6 to 7 weeks to submit. Does that sound right?
That's perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
You too.
Item number 14, 58156 BZ, 24-01 to 24-11, 36th Avenue, Queens.
I'm entering Ms. Landsman.
Hello.
Hello.
Is anyone else with you, Ms. Landsman? I can't hear you. You're muted.
It's just me today. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Do you affirm, raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions? Please state your name and proceed.
My name is Alexia Landisman from Sheldon LaBelle on behalf of the applicant. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We attended the executive session today. We heard all of the comments. So the first comment was with regards to the time frame. So we had initially requested an extension of time for 2 years. And the reasoning behind that was we just wanted some buffer room for delays with the DOB process or just any unforeseen circumstances. The applicant just wanted that extra time, to have. We would still like to have the 2 years. However, if the board is insistent on the 1 year, we'll take it, obviously. The second thing that was mentioned was with regards to the trailers and the containers. You had mentioned it at the executive session yourself. That's part of the construction. So it's not on the plans and they will be removed the second the applicant obtains a CO, the trailer and the containers. And, with regards to the ramp and the fencing and the awning over the ramp. So the fencing is highlighted in the plans on page 1 and 5. However, the awning is not. And so we are happy to tweak those drawings and resubmit those. And if you'd like us to specify or highlight the fencing, we can make those changes on the drawings as well.
So it's very, with respect to the fencing, it's very hard to tell what that line is. And it's also very hard to tell what the extent of the fencing is, like where does it go and all of that. So if a different designation, line weight, or usually, as I always say, fencing is designated as a line with little X's, that's how you know it's a fence, right? So a clear designation of fence, and it's the extent of it and the type of fence called out clearly. I think it says the type of fence, but not the extent. And then also that there's an awning, which would be designated with a dash line and an arrow that points to it and says awning overhead. Okay.
Got it. Okay, so I will have those drawings submitted. And then lastly, just want to make note that the applicant will comply with all of the previous grants, all of the conditions of the original grant. But I think that was all of the comments.
Right. So you need to actually state in your cover letter how you have complied or are complying with the terms of the original grant. So I believe you do say that the building has not been increased in height, but you don't talk about the firefighting appliances, which is actually quite an unusual condition, but it's in the conditions. And then there were some other ones, maintenance of the fencing and landscaping, removal of the razor wire, things like that. If you go through the material, the resolutions, and make sure that you have a cover letter that says where we can see that that's been done, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. But what I wanted to say is often, like we had submitted earlier, another application, that would normally be in a compliance chart where you go through each of the requirements and then you say shown on photo number 4. So for example, I looked at old photos, I looked at street view, and eventually I found photos that show that the site's been really improved, right? But it took a while for me to find it. At a certain point, I say, oh, look, there's a new fence because I've been looking at this terrible rusted fence.
Right.
So that's why you really do need the compliance chart to say photo number 5 submitted on such and such a date, or photo number 5 submitted with this compliance chart shows that the new fencing was installed.
Okay, I'm happy to submit that along with the plans that show the fencing and awning.
Okay.
Would we be able to put this on the calendar and have that submitted to you before the time of closing this case, or?
So let's go to the public before we discuss what we're going to do, okay? Okay, let's go to the public.
Somebody keeps muting me.
I didn't catch it.
Sorry, I don't know. So the case we are currently discussing is 58156 BZ 2401 to 2411 36th Avenue, Queens. If you wish to discuss this case, you may dial in at 646-558-8656. Enter the Webern ID number, which is 960-1176-8373. Press pound. And the next will be press pound after you ignore the participant ID request. Press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute when you're in the Zoom room. And if you are in the Zoom room already, please press your Zoom hand to speak.
Okay. Just to go back a second. So removal of the containers after construction is completed would be a condition, right?
Yes, I think that might be all, I think one of the conditions is to keep the containers off.
Right, but it was a condition of the prior approval and they're still there, so that didn't go over well. So, yeah, so I just want to make sure that that's going to be a condition again. And once construction is complete, they need to be taken off. I don't, as I said, there's no reason for a trade school to have containers on site. Okay, so I'm just looking at
Fire department, sorry.
Yeah, fire department has its hand up. Oh, okay, go ahead, Chief Daly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to let the board know that we had conducted an inspection at these premises last Thursday. This building does have a sprinkler system and that it is operational. It was signed off by the Department of Buildings in 2021. So we will be conducting a testing in 2026. As for portable firefighting appliances, the only thing I could think of is fire extinguishers, which these premises do have. And so we have no objection to this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's what I was thinking. Otherwise, what in the world would it be? Something that nobody else has to have. Okay, thank you. Fire extinguisher. So, Ms. Landsman, you could actually make reference to that statement by Chief Daly that they observed that there are fire extinguishers. That's how you demonstrate compliance with that term of grant. Okay. Okay. Anything else from commissioners? So as long as you please do submit that information about clarify that the containers will be removed, right? Once construction is complete. Reiterate that you would like 2 years as a cushion, because you never know how long it takes to get a C of O these days.
Right.
And then a careful compliance chart where you go through everything and you say, as shown on photo number 3 or whatever, right? Okay.
And new plans with the fencing, right?
Yes.
Like those. Yes, you got it.
Okay, so given all of that, then I would like to make a motion to close. And how much time? Sorry, before we do that.
I want to say 2 weeks. We can probably get that back to you.
Really? I'm giving you 3 because 2 sounds tight. Okay.
Okay.
If you're making promises for other people, not just your own office, right? The architect has to do work, right? Okay, 3 weeks. All right, so a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
next item is item number 15, 1181-80BZ 6207 Woodside Avenue, Queens.
Okay, please raise your, whose cases? Oh, okay, Steve. Okay.
Steve Simovich.
Simisich.
Sorry, Steve.
Okay. Please accept panelists in order to be seen.
All right, there we are. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Stephen Simmons here, representing the owners of 6207 Woodside Avenue, 211 Property LLC, regarding this 7201 a resolution to extend the term of previously granted variance. I was listening in the review session. I heard all the questions and concerns. I just wanted to see if we can go through the list of them here and, respond accordingly, and just want to make sure that I had them all correct. At first, I did hear about the sprinkler signage and hours of operations needing to be clarified in the statement of facts, that they're in compliance and that a compliance statement would be submitted for those. In addition, the cellar, I believe, is at this point just storage for the tenants, but I will get clarification from the architect. Unfortunately, the architect, Ray Herrera, wasn't able to attend. His wife is in dialysis today, and he informed me he wouldn't be able to make it, but I'll be checking with him regarding the cellar and also this 35 square foot note in the front yard section, which I do believe is also just the entranceway area that was discussed, but I'll get that confirmation from Ray tomorrow. And then I know that there was some typos and need to clarify the grant dates and expiration dates. Those will be, corrected in the statement. And as the chair did mention, there's no ECB violations on the site. I know that was raised earlier in the session.
Can I just add, Mr. Senator, also look at the rear yard. That's also shown as 18 square feet.
Okay, great. So I will confirm with him the rear yard and the front yard, those two points on the zoning analysis form. And then I do know that it was brought up that we did state that these partition walls are I'm sorry, I can't even think the term right now. They're non-load bearing. These are just like the normal walls that in offices are moved around depending on different personnel, or if a new tenant takes in. They're just the types of really, very thin sort of walls that are moved around in an office to make different configurations. That's what was changed on that third floor. I know that was brought up in the review session. And then as far as the request for a permanent grant here, I mean, it was stated that was not mentioned in the properly in the statement. Here we have a building that is in impeccable condition. As was stated, even the railroad facing side is extremely well maintained. And very importantly so, as the community board brought out in their unanimous approval of to even grant the permanent variance, most of the sites in this building are very beneficial to the community. It's the AIDS Center of Queens County. It's a physical therapy office. It's mental health providers of Western Queens. And we do believe, as the community board stated, that this building is a benefit to the community and that is deserving of a permanent grant of this variance at this point, having been in operation for almost 40 years on the site. That is all, I think, as far as the comments that I remember from the review session. You can let me know if I forgot any.
Right. And I think also more critically from a zoning point of view, that's, I think, how you make the argument, rather than, because we can't rely on the uses being eternally,
of course,
good doer uses. But the fact is you're in a C13 overlay, which allows for commercial use, even if not at that level.
Yes.
In terms of quantity. So commercial has already been contemplated in this area. But I think that if we were talking about, these are all use group 6B uses, right? These are all office uses, because what you were describing could arguably be community facility uses. But you don't want to go there because then that's as of right.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's speaking more to the point, like you mentioned, that in the 40 years that the building has been in operation there, that the zoning of the area has actually moved, closer to where its compliance or its fitting in the neighborhood is even more strengthened. I understand.
So if you could write that up.
Yes.
So that's you're making your written argument, so we can incorporate that into our findings.
Certainly.
That would be supporting of it. And that it also goes to, I see the hands up of the commissioners, that also goes to the what's going on in the cellar, because if you're not using it as an official warehouse, but it's just being used as accessory to the offices, that's another question, because what was the original grant was for a warehouse and office building, is that right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so the question is that, because if we talk about a permanent grant, it's easy to say use group 6B offices, right? Maybe arguably more problematic that if there's effectively an industrial use at the site. So you could speak with your client about whether the seller continues to just be accessory to use group 6B offices.
Okay.
And we could clarify that, and then we don't have to kind of worry about changing the use in that industrial realm kind of thing.
Certainly.
Okay. Commissioner Vice Chair, you took your hand down. Is that what you wanted to say?
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the applicant for the clarification regarding the walls. I'm not concerned whether they are load bearing or not. I'm concerned about whether they are load imposing or not. I just want to make sure that these partitions are not imposing loads at locations where they are not supposed to impose loads.
Okay.
In other words, if they are just dry walls, light, I'm fine with them. But if they are like brick walls, even if they are not taking loads from structural elements, but they might be imposing loads at locations on the floor that it shouldn't be any load there. That was my concern. Thank you.
I appreciate that clarification. And yeah, I can certainly say that they are just drywall partition walls that are reconfiguring office sizes. That's all that it was.
Then I'm fine with them. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm fighting. All right, let's go to the public.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 1181-80-BZ 6207 Woodside Avenue, Queens. Should you wish to call in to speak on this case, please dial 646-558-8656. Enter the webinar ID number, which is 960-1176-8373 #. You'll then need to press pound. You do not have to enter the participant ID number, just press pound. In order to enter the Zoom room, press star. When you're in the Zoom room, press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. If you're already in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay. Going to give it how much time do you need for this?
I should be able to get this along with the architect within a month, everything back.
Okay.
Just wanted to, make sure that I'm giving enough time for him considering the situation.
The situation or considering what we've asked for, you mean?
Oh, no, just personal issues of the architect. That's why I'm giving.
Oh, I see. Yes.
That's why I'm giving a month.
I see. Okay. Vice Chair, you have your hand up.
I had a question. The prior condition had a stipulation on the hours of operations, which was from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Now that the area has a commercial overlay, would we want to maintain that condition?
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but I just wanted a clarification.
Right, offices. Okay, so we would eliminate the hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
I'm just looking at what other conditions we had. We had weren't right. Yeah, it says right, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Business signs comply with C1. So you need to comply with the C13 anyway, right? So that's what you need to show us, that you are in compliance with the C13, which therefore is not like a waiver anymore to allow commercial signage, right? And then establish, of course, that it's fully sprinklered, right? Maybe submit sprinkler sprinkler inspection certificate or something like that, whatever is the standard thing that
Okay.
Ellie can tell us. Okay. All right. All right, good. So I don't think we didn't have anybody call in. And I just want to see if there's anything, there's nothing substantive. So we could close this and you said a month. You think that's enough?
Yes, yes,
Really?
certainly.
Okay. All right, so nothing substantive here as long as you're making your case for the elimination of the term and showing compliance, okay? All right, so I'd like to make a motion and of course clarifying that odd yard situation, which it doesn't seem like it has.
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Oh, and obviously the typos, we said all this already, the typos in the statement of facts about the grant dates and expiration dates. Okay.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to close.
Chair Promoter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Nisheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
we'll let you know when the date is, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 16, 40682BZ, 2411 86th Street, Brooklyn.
Sorry. Went too fast. Police. There we go.
Hi, 1 second, sorry. Hi, Elise Fullader. I'm going to be sworn.
Anyone with you?
No, not for this
Okay,
one.
do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do. Thank you so much
State
for
your name
having
for
me.
the record.
Thank you so much for having me. Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. On behalf of the applicant, we heard your comments today and we'll just go through the few comments. First, we would be more than happy to provide drawings that are more legible and then photographs, additional photographs to show proof of compliance. So, and with perimeter photos going around the site. I spoke with the permit manager from Bowler Engineering about the one ECP violation, no money is owed, but they're working on closing that right now. And so they're aware of that. And also we have to talk to McDonald's about what the container is, but we can provide more information on what is in the container. And then the last comment I have is the crack on the refuse wall. They will have that repaired.
Okay, good. All right, let's go to the public before we do anything else.
Oh, did you want to, about the time?
Oh, yeah, the
2
time.
years?
Oh, 2 years is more than enough, and that we're just asking for 2 years to make sure we don't have to come back to you again for another.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the public.
The case we are currently discussing is 40682BZ, 2411 86th Street, Brooklyn. Should you wish to call in to discuss, it is 646-558-8656. Enter the webinar ID number 960-1176-8373 #. You will then be instructed to enter the participant ID number, which you can ignore, just press #. Once you're in the Zoom room, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute, which will enable you to be able to speak. If you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay, thanks. So Ms. Fullader, you know, this the question about the clean set of drawings. If you could have a conversation with Carlo about how to deal with that, because they don't want to mess things up. This is only an extension of time for a CO, and the drawings, since there's no changes to the drawings, I don't want to mess anything up about the fact that this was approved for an extension of term in 2020. So it may be that there's a way to work this out without like a, yeah, This might be a
Yeah.
way to work this out without messing up the the record, sort of, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
maybe, I don't know if your office, but maybe your office could just stamp the same day, but I'll provide the plans and then he can well, I'll give him a call.
Okay, thank you, because I just want to throw a wrench in the story, because they show approved January 28th, 2020. So the drawing shouldn't be the drawing shouldn't be dated later than January 28th, 2020. That would be so confusing with the stamp on it, right? So.
Yeah, and I think our office should have it, or at least Bowler's office should have it, because we were the last applicants.
Right, okay, thank you. All right, so I don't see anything open here that's substantive, so if you could just make those submissions, we can, yeah.
Commissioner Sheta mentioned any complaints from the neighbors?
Oh, sorry. I have not heard any complaints from the neighbors, and the Bowler has not, but I can ask if there's been any, but I'm not aware of any. And the site is kept pretty nice, so.
Yeah. You know, all I could think of besides that is us reaching out to the community board to see if they've heard anything. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's only been a little while since the grant.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right then. So how much time do you need? Or maybe you told me already.
Just to see if we can maybe fix a few things, give us a month just to get it all done.
Okay. Great. All right then. So I'd like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay, closed.
Thank you.
Next item is, I'm sorry, item number 176690 BZ 4303 Astoria Boulevard, Queens. Are you the only one participating?
No, we should have Andrew Stewart from High Point.
Yes.
Where is he? Oh, it's okay.
He's there.
No, I see him, but I'm saying he's not.
Yeah, Mr. Stewart, yeah. Can you accept? There we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Oh.
Okay, raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
I do.
Please state your name and proceed.
Elise Fuller from Eric Palatnik PC on behalf of the applicant. I'm here with Andrew Stewart from High Point, and we will go through the comments. I first would like to note that this owner operator was aware of the asphalt and they were re-asphalting as of last week.
Oh,
So that should also take care of any of the junk or whatever, because when they re-asphalt, I'm sure they will make it look nice, because there's no point of re-asphalting without making it look nice.
Mhm.
So that is being worked on. We're more than happy to do perimeter conditions photographs showing compliance. We need to speak with the owner and the operator about the dumpster location. It's been like that for a long time, and we have to see if it could be relocated. So that's a conversation we have to have with them. Lighting, we have to work on it with the operator and see what we can do with that. We will fix any inconsistencies with the parking spaces. We will answer more in depth about the compliance of 1991 and 2000. Landscaping, we will make sure it complies with the previous conditions. We have to, hopefully when they're doing the asphalt, but I'll speak to them about re-landscaping if necessary. And asphalt, photo key. And then Commissioner Sheta talked about employee parking. If it's accounted for, we will note that in our next submission. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so, but I think maybe what he was getting at is the originally approved plans didn't show parking in that side area. It just shows landscaping wrapping all the way around, and now the applicant the owner has fenced off that area to create parking. So that should be discussed. It's like, before it wasn't parking, now it's parking. What is the impact on neighbors? I don't remember, are those are commercial uses, right? The neighbors? No, those little garages, sorry. Those are little garages at the back, but the issue is like, what's the impact on the neighbors? How is that area being maintained? Because we can't tell because we don't have enough perimeter information.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, we're speaking of the parking at the rear of the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we do call them out as employee parking stalls. Not, I mean, if that helps, but that's just, it's more control over, I guess, who's parking. Obviously, because the fence, you're not gonna have public parking there, but just to
Right.
call that out.
So it wasn't in the previously approved set. So
Understood.
you need to make a case for why that should become parking. Not actually sure what it was used for before.
Right.
It just shows, on the old drawings, it shows like there's a fuel oil tank, there's, landscaping, and what it's doing is it's eliminating that. Yeah, Commissioner Sheta, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I raised that because I saw on Google Images that I saw that there are cars parking there. One of them was actually a snow blowing truck. My thinking was regarding the relocation of the dumpster, that it could be easily relocated to that spot or part of that spot, I would say, because it's so big. It can actually contain the dumpster. In addition to, if it's well coordinated, it can actually host some parking as well. So just wanted some clarification why it wasn't noted that it's going to be used for parking. Now it's being used for parking, and on the drawings, it calls them employee parking. And keep in mind, this area could be utilized to accommodate the dumpster partially.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So, because that was the thing, is where can you put it? You have a lot of space to put it. away
Exactly.
from
Yes.
the residents. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the residents is getting the worst deal.
Yes.
Out of everybody else, right? And especially because you've got these two garages there to block off nuisance to those residences. They have those two private garages. So
Understood.
okay.
So we'll
Thank
have
you.
that conversation with the operator and the owner and see what they think, or if it's feasible.
All right. So go ahead.
Did we state that she wanted, I think Commissioner Otley Brown wanted more interior photos?
Yeah,
Interior
it-
perimeter photos,
Yeah, that's what I think we talked about that.
Oh, I'm
that
sorry, I must have
perimeter
missed it.
photos that go all the way around. I think Ms. Fullader went through that on her own list.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Trying to just check off the note.
Better clear than not clear. Okay. Okay, let's go to the public then.
So the case we are currently discussing is item number 17, 6690 BC, 4303 Astoria Boulevard, Queens. If you wish to dial in to discuss, it is 646-558-8656. You will enter the webinar ID number 960-1176-8373 #. You will then be asked to enter the participant ID number, which you can ignore and just press pound. Please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute once you are allowed into the Zoom room. If you are already in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand.
And just a note, but I think you probably got that too. We need the photos of the perimeter keyed to the plans, right? So that's always.
The photographs that were submitted were just meant to show you like, a week or two ago, just to show you what the site currently looked at, because sometimes the photos are really old. That's all it was trying to do.
Oh, I see. Okay. It's always good when you submit things to have a cover explaining why they're submitted, because sometimes they just come and you're like, I don't know what this is supposed to be telling me. So
Yeah, just trying as a courtesy to say like, oh, I know the photos were really, really old.
okay, thanks. All right then. So how much time to do this?
I think because we have to have a few real conversations with the operator and the owner, I would guess 3 months. Andy, do you think that's sufficient? Would you agree, 3 months?
Yeah, between, getting coordinating with the owner and the dealer, I think we have to look at some lighting stuff too. So definitely, I would say at least 3 months.
Okay, okay.
Or maybe, or is 3 months?
Is that enough or you want more?
With the
Or-
lighting, maybe more, but we'd get someone on board for that. So what do you think, Elise?
Then let's say 4 months just to be safe.
Okay.
I'd rather we'd obviously rather have a hearing than not have a hearing.
Yeah, because that's the thing is if you make it 3 months and then you're not ready and then you end up adjourning, then it's another 3 months.
Yeah.
In a certain way, it's faster to do 4 than it is to do 3. It sounds silly, but it is.
So go 4.
Okay. All right. And when you say you need to do lighting, you mean to figure out how to bring down the impact on the neighbors. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had said that plans, there were some issues. We just want to look at it and see what needs to be done and then give you new information as needed.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so it's based on field measurements, and if
Yeah.
you're making corrections to the actual lighting, then you make the corrections and then remeasure with on off, right?
Right.
And the focus is always on the affected residents, not on the whole of the site, okay? Okay, good. All right, so I'm making a note, 4 months to submit, okay? We'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is 20197 BZ 11902 Rockaway Boulevard, Queens.
Elise Fullader from Eric Polanic PC. I have, or I should
I
have
have to
with
swear you in.
Not yet. I need the other guy.
What other
Mark
guy? Mark
Steinberg.
Steinberg? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Steinberg, please accept panelist. There you go.
Okay, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, is that it, Elise?
Yep.
Okay, please both raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. I'm here with Mark Steinberg. I'm going to let him just quickly introduce himself and tell you about the work they've been doing on the site to get the C of O. Mark.
Okay, hello, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. I'm Mark Steinberg. I'm a principal of the applicant. And we've been working hard to get the C of O. We've had just recently a construction inspection with the Department of Buildings. For our lease with Walgreens, Walgreens is responsible for a lot of the repairs that needed to be made inside of the building, and a lot of that work has been done. We had an elevator violation in that building, and we don't have an elevator. We have a conveyor belt, but I was told that was rectified with the building department inspector at the site, but just not taken care of in the DOB computer system. And I didn't want the board to think that we've had all this time and we haven't been working on getting the C of O. We really have been. And I just wanted to say that before I really let Elise take over for us.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope that clarifies a little bit about where we are. So 2 years should be more than enough, but just 2 years, just in case there are any holdups at DOB would be preferred. We are more than happy to provide a left turn sign photograph. I know that was left out. The vending machines, we have to look at that view and talk to Walgreens if there's extra vending machines there. Steel doors, paint job, we'll look if it's been painted, and if not, we could talk to Walgreens about painting it and provide a photograph. And then the fence, we'll have to figure out if that's and the concrete wall, if that is ours or not, and then go from there.
Okay, good. All right, then, let's go to the public.
So the case we are currently discussing is item number 18, Calendar number is 201-97BZ, 119-02 Rockaway Boulevard, Queens. Should you wish to call in to speak on this matter, it is 646-558-8656. You can enter the webinar ID number 960-1176-8373, press pound. You will also be then may instructed to enter the participant ID number, which you can ignore and just press pound. Once you're in the Zoom room, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute to be able to speak. If you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay, great. All right, so how much time do you think you need to respond to these things?
Mark, do you think a month just to speak with Walgreens about anything and that we might need? Is that appropriate or less time?
No, I think we should ask, I think a month would be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds like the right amount.
Okay, I'm just gonna give it a little bit more time to see if anyone calls in. So, and in terms of, like, for instance, let's just say the trash enclosure the doors needed to be painted. A month is enough time to get the guy, whoever works at Walgreens, to paint the doors.
Well, I was just thinking of that as you were speaking about that. I think that it's a very large company and we work through a maintenance division of that company. And I feel like we could get them on board to do it within that time frame. But we might really need 60 days to get them to approve the painting and then getting it completed so we can present a nice picture to you.
Okay, so, the concrete wall, I'm taking a wild guess that's yours, but it might be a retaining wall. I don't know. I actually don't know what it is. So, but anyway, also that's another thing that would need to be painted or something. It looks moldy. It looks like it needs to be treated and then painted. And I'm guessing it's like a wooden fence. That's probably not yours.
Right.
Stylistically doesn't look like the kind of thing that a commercial enterprise would install, but I could be wrong. So, okay, so let's see. And to the extent that you're not able to finish everything, the rest could be condition of approval. Okay,
Thank
because
you.
I'd like to close this so we could leave whatever's missing for condition. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to respond with whatever we do or can't do.
Right, exactly. Okay. All right, then. So I'd like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we did receive something which I forwarded to on Bay Street, but
So
do
wait
you
a
want
minute.
to?
So yes, we're just to be clear, we're finished with this application, right?
Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We'll let
Thank
you
you
know
all.
when the hearing is. And as with respect to the second calls, I haven't had enough time to review it. I think
Okay,
it's
that's
too
what I-
difficult, so we'll bring it on second call first thing tomorrow. How about that?
Okay, just I want the applicants to be clear. They had asked.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
thank you. So this concludes the public, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Are you finished? This concludes the public hearing for March 28, 2022.